Have you ever felt like you're on a roller coaster driven by your emotions, hanging on for dear life without any sense of control? Imagine this. You're in a meeting trying to explain your ideas when suddenly someone interrupts you. It catches you off guard, derailing your thoughts, and before you know it, anger starts boiling inside you. You're ready to react, to shoot something sharp back at them. But what if I told you there's a better way? Imagine if you had a choice. Instead of being a mere passenger along for the ride, you could be the driver. You could decide at that very moment whether to let that frustration take over or to take a breath and steer the situation towards a better outcome. Today, we'll explore exactly how you can do that, how you can become the captain of your ship in the unpredictable storm of emotions. This is not about suppressing your emotions or becoming an unfeeling robot. No, this is about being strong enough to feel your emotions, understand them, and still make deliberate choices about how you act. This is about becoming the hero of your own story, no matter how chaotic life gets. So are you ready to take control? Are you ready to master your emotions and become the person you've always dreamed you could be? Let's get into it. Chapter 1: Emotions as Allies. Understanding their purpose. Before we can master our emotions, we need to understand them. Imagine a loyal but overzealous friend, one who always wants to protect you, but sometimes doesn't know when to stop. That's your emotions. They're not here to sabotage you, they're here to serve you. They alert you to danger, help you celebrate your victories, and let you feel connected to the people you care about. Think of emotions as a survival mechanism that's been honed over millions of years. Back when we were living in the wild, feeling intense fear could literally mean the difference between life and death. The amygdala, that small almond-shaped structure in your brain, is your emotional alarm system. It kicks into gear before your logical mind even has time to assess the situation. That's why you sometimes find yourself reacting before you've had time to think. The problem is that these survival responses were designed for a world that doesn't exist anymore. You don't need to run from predators or fight for food. Instead, you're dealing with deadlines, relationships, and the stress of modern life. When someone cuts you off in traffic or your boss yells at you, your brain can still go into full fight-or-flight mode, even though the danger is social rather than physical. The goal isn't to get rid of these emotions, but to learn how to use them. Anger can be a signal that your boundaries are being crossed, while fear can be a sign that something important is at stake. But it's up to you to decide what to do with those emotions. Chapter 2: Lessons from the Stoics: Building Emotional Resilience. The Stoics were masters at handling emotions. These guys lived in tough times, wars, diseases, political upheaval, and yet they managed to remain calm and effective leaders. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor, was one of the most powerful men in the world, but he also had one of the clearest minds. He famously said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." The Stoics believed that it wasn't the events of the world that hurt us, but our opinions about those events. Think about it. If someone insults you, it's not the insult itself that causes pain, but the meaning you attach to it. It's the story you tell yourself about why they said it and what it means about you. The Stoics understood that we can't always control what happens to us, but we can control how we respond. Imagine you're in the gym, struggling through a set. The weight doesn't change, but your attitude can make all the difference. If you see the weight as an enemy, you'll struggle. But if you see it as a challenge, a way to grow stronger, you'll push through. The Stoics taught that instead of trying to change the world to fit our desires, we should change our mindset to fit the world. Chapter 3: The Power of Pause: Mastering the Space Between. Here's where it gets interesting. Between what happens to us and how we respond, there's always a space. It may be tiny, a split second, but in that space lies our freedom. That space gives us the power to choose how we react. Imagine a boxer in the ring. Life throws a punch. Maybe your partner breaks up with you, or you get a bad performance review at work. Your emotions will flare up. That's the stimulus. But in that split second, you have a choice. Do you let those emotions drive your actions, Or do you take control and choose a response that benefits you in the long run? Let me tell you a quick story about a friend of mine named Jake. Jake used to have a terrible temper. One day someone cut him off in traffic. His first instinct was to lay on the horn, speed up, and confront the other driver. But that day he made a different choice. He took a deep breath, let it go, and continued his drive. That decision didn't just save him from a pointless confrontation, it changed his entire day. He arrived at work calm and collected and ended up nailing an important presentation. That's the power of choice. It's about consistently choosing a response that aligns with who you want to be, rather than just reacting based on how you feel in the moment. Chapter 4. Tools for Mastery. Practical Techniques for Emotional Control. It's time to get practical. How can we actually take control of our emotional responses? Here are some of the most powerful techniques to help you master your emotions. 1. The pause and reflect method. This technique is as simple as it sounds. When you feel a strong emotion rising, pause. Take a deep breath. Count to 10. This gives your prefrontal cortex, the logical part of your brain, time to catch up to your amygdala. It's like stepping back from a fight to assess your opponent. Ask yourself, if I act on this emotion, what will the outcome be? Is this going to help me, or am I just reacting out of habit? 2. Cognitive reframing. Cognitive reframing is about changing how you perceive a situation. Let's say your friend cancels plans at the last minute. Instead of thinking, they don't care about me, flip it. Maybe they had a rough day and needed some time alone. It's like turning a setback into a setup. You use the same energy but direct it towards something positive. Take, for example, James, a friend who runs marathons. Once during a big race, he was tripped by another runner and fell hard, hurting his knee. Most people would have quit right there, but James got up, reframed the fall as just another part of the challenge, and kept going. He didn't finish with his best time, but he finished, and that meant more than anything. 3. Values-based decision-making. Another powerful technique is values-based decision-making. Ask yourself, what would the best version of myself do right now? The key here is to identify your core values, whether it's kindness, courage, or integrity, and act in alignment with them. When you're faced with a challenge, act in a way that would make your future self proud. Chapter 5. Why emotional mastery transforms your life. Why go through all this trouble? Because mastering your emotions will transform every area of your life. Your relationships will thrive. Instead of reacting to others in anger or fear, you'll respond with empathy and wisdom. You'll become the person others look to when things get tough. Your decision-making skills will improve too. You won't be the person who makes rash choices in the heat of the moment. Instead, you'll be the one who sees clearly, even in the most intense situations. It's like what legendary chess player Garry Kasparov once said, "The highest level players are not emotional players, they are technicians." But most importantly, you'll feel more in control of your life. No more feeling like a puppet with your emotions pulling the strings. You'll be the one making the decisions, charting the course for your own life. Chapter 6. Overcoming Obstacles. Handling Emotional Challenges. Mastering your emotions isn't easy. It's more like running uphill with a weighted vest. Let's address some of the common challenges you're likely to face. 1. Dealing with intense emotions. Sometimes emotions can feel like a freight train. Anger, fear, sadness, especially when you're in a high-stakes situation. The trick here is to treat intense emotions like a tough workout. You wouldn't quit halfway through just because it hurt, right? Embrace the burn, acknowledge it, but don't let it control you. Take, for instance, Sarah, a nurse working in a high-pressure ER environment. She deals with life-and-death situations daily, and emotions often run high. She once told me about a patient's family member who yelled at her out of sheer panic. Instead of reacting defensively, she took a breath, understood their fear, and responded with compassion. Her choice not only de-escalated the situation, but also created a moment of genuine human connection. 2. Breaking habit patterns. Emotional reactions are often ingrained habits. Imagine you're used to responding with sarcasm when someone criticizes you. It's your defense mechanism. Breaking that habit will take time. But remember, every time you choose differently, you're rewiring your brain. It's like what Bruce Lee said, "I fear not the man who has practiced 10,000 kicks once, but I fear the man who has practiced one kick 10,000 times." 3. Consistency is key. Some days you'll be on top of your game, making all the right choices. Other days it'll feel like you're starting from scratch. That's normal. Remember, it's not about being perfect. It's about showing up and trying again each time you slip up. Success, as Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson says, isn't overnight. It's when every day you get a little better than the day before. Consistency adds up. Chapter 7. Real-life scenarios. Putting emotional mastery to work. Let's see how this plays out in everyday life. Scenario 1. The gym confrontation. You're at the gym, mid-set, when someone drops their weights loudly, breaking your concentration. The old you might have shot them a dirty look or even said something sarcastic. But instead, you pause, take a breath, and remind yourself that their behavior doesn't have to affect your workout. You stay focused, tune out the noise, and finish your set stronger than ever. Scenario 2. Relationship troubles. Your partner tells you they need space, and it feels like a sucker punch. The emotions are overwhelming. Fear, sadness, maybe even anger. The old you might have lashed out or begged them not to leave, but instead you choose to respond with dignity. You say, "I understand. I need some time to think too." This choice creates the space for genuine reflection and maybe even healing, whether you stay together or go your separate ways. Scenario 3. Career setback. Your boss overlooks you for a promotion and resentment starts to creep in. You feel like giving up, like letting your standards slip because why bother? Instead, you ask your boss for feedback. You take the criticism as fuel for improvement, and 6 months later, you not only get promoted, but surpass the position you originally aimed for. Chapter 8. The neuroscience behind emotional mastery. Some of you might be thinking, this all sounds great, but where's the proof? Don't worry, science has our back. Research in neuroscience shows that our brains are plastic, meaning they can change. Every time you choose a deliberate action over an emotional reaction, you're literally rewiring your brain. It's like building muscle, but for your mind. One study found that people who practice emotional regulation have stronger relationships and greater career success. They're not just happier, they're thriving. Another study from Harvard found that mindfulness meditation can actually change the structure of your brain, strengthening the areas responsible for focus and decision-making. It's like giving your brain a performance upgrade. And here's the kicker. A study from the University of Michigan found that people who believe they can control their emotions actually do have more control. It's like the placebo effect, but for being a badass. Believe you can do it, and you're already halfway there. Chapter 9. Daily practices, building emotional strength. Let's make this practical. You wouldn't expect to get fit by just reading about exercise, right? You have to put in the reps. Here's your mental workout plan for mastering your emotions. 1. Mindfulness meditation. Take 5 minutes each day to sit quietly and observe your thoughts without judgment. It's like watching clouds pass by. This will help you create that all-important gap between stimulus and response. 2. Journaling. Every evening, write down one instance where you chose your action over your emotion. Reflect on what happened and what you learned. This is like reviewing game tape. It helps you see where you can improve. 3. Visualization. Spend a few minutes each day visualizing yourself responding calmly and effectively in challenging situations. It's like a mental rehearsal. When the real situation happens, you'll be ready. The cold shower challenge. Start your day with a 30-second cold shower. It's uncomfortable, but it teaches you to choose your response in the face of discomfort. Plus, it's an instant wake-up call. Chapter 10. Stoic habits. 10 daily practices for mastery. These habits are your tools for building self-control. They're not optional. They're essential. If you want to master your emotions, commit to these practices daily. 1. Mindfulness training. Work your way up to 20 minutes of mindfulness meditation. This is like weightlifting for your mind. 2. Emotional log. Track your emotional triggers and responses each night. This is your game tape, your key to improvement. 3rd, deliberate discomfort. Choose something uncomfortable daily. Cold showers, skipping a meal, a tough workout. Train your ability to act despite discomfort. 4. Visualization. Mentally rehearse challenging scenarios. 5. The daily catalyst. Each morning ask, what's one thing I can do today that my future self will thank me for? 6. Micro decisions. Notice small choices throughout the day and make them consciously. 7. Gratitude practice. End each day by naming 3 things you're grateful for. 8. Feedback loop. Once a week, ask someone you trust for feedback. 9. Emotion action split. When feeling a strong emotion, pause, name it, then choose your action. 10th, daily Stoic reading. Read from a Stoic philosopher every day to sharpen your thinking. Conclusion, the hero's choice. Imagine yourself standing at the edge of a cliff, with your emotions raging below like a stormy sea. Behind you is the safe, comfortable path you've always known. What do? Do you turn back, retreat to safety, or do you leap forward, trusting in yourself to rise to the challenge? Every great leader faced this choice. Think of Winston Churchill during World War II. Fear and doubt were all around, but he chose courage. "We shall fight on the beaches," he declared, not because he felt fearless, but because he chose to act with courage despite his fear. Or take Odysseus, who had himself tied to the mast so he could hear the siren song without being lured to his death. He faced the challenge head-on, choosing his action over the pull of his emotions. This is the kind of power you now have. The world's greatest achievements were built by people who chose their actions in the face of overwhelming emotions. They chose courage over fear, resilience over despair, love over hate, and you can do the same. You have the tools, you have the knowledge. But knowledge without action is nothing. Remember, in every choice lies your power, your potential, and your legacy. Call to action. Now I want to hear from you. Share a time when you chose your action over your emotion. How did it change the outcome? Or better yet, take one of the techniques from today and practice it for a week. Come back and tell us how it changed your game. Iron sharpens iron. Your story could be the spark that ignites someone else's transformation. So don't hold back. Let's build a community of action takers, of people who refuse to be dragged around by their emotions, and instead choose their path with purpose. You have the power. The question is, will you use it? Get after it, and let's see what you're truly made of.